Okay, welcome to the 8th episode of Binge Live. I'm Jason Pramas, Executive Director of the Boston Institute for Nonprofit Journalism. And next to me, at least on my screen, is my colleague Chris Faraone, who can introduce himself.
Yeah, that's me, Chris Faraone. And the tie, and this is not just for effect. Jason and I were lecturing, or whatever you want to call it, speaking with the youngs at Emerson College earlier. So props to Emerson, one of the colleges that has, of all of them in the area, that has been friendliest, I'd say, and especially to Professor Gino Canella, who, if we get a few views on the live stream, he might be one of them. So what's up, Gino?
Yeah.
But, that was fun. So the tie is real. I'm not just putting it on and then going to my office, which is fine too. Sometimes I do that to take the day seriously. But I think obviously. Hey, did you lose me for a second?
No, you're still there.
Cool. Obviously, I just want to also, along with you, welcome John. Thanks for coming on.
Jonathan Gerhardson, welcome. So, Chris, fire away.
Well, I guess let's cut to it. I mean, so the thing is here, John has been really the. I guess I'll give a little preview, a prelude. John has been doing opioid settlement coverage for us, really kind of led the way. This is something that, the short of it, and we'll get into some of the details, but the short of it is that for all the damage that a lot of these companies have done in Massachusetts, whether the manufacturers like Purdue Pharma or distributors, it's not all Purdue Pharma. It's not always the boogeyman whose name we know. There are a lot of other companies whose, after years of lawsuits and pressure from attorneys general across the country, finally committed to settlements, big payments that are going to be going on through almost 2040 for decades. And that money is meant to correct, as to the extent possible, the problem, the scourge, the epidemic that they have, that pour gasoline all over, in some cases really brought to the forefront. Now, we'll get into that, but that money has been trickling through Massachusetts in different ways for years, 5 years now, as John's new piece is going to show. And it's really been, it's not exactly, there's not a lot of news about it. We hadn't seen how that money was really being spent. And I was interested in it on a number of levels. For one, we run a nonprofit that covers this stuff, but also as reporters, you want to know, where's the transparency? So with that introduction, the truth is that I never had the time to fully dive in. I'd spoken to other nonprofits that were thinking about hiring consultants, and this is government at its best, where things are so complicated that people hire consultants to guide them through the labyrinth of this. But fortunately for us, along comes John, John, hello. And first, actually, just introduce yourself. You're, as unique a person as you are similar to a lot of our other reporters in that you have, real life experiences. You're not some coddled newsroom, reporter. What is your background? How do you get into this? You tend to like the more difficult, longer, a lot of this, the kind of stories that BINJ has always been interested in. Government accountability, stuff off the beaten track, stuff that's ignored. So, what's your background?
So I'm in Western Mass. Been doing reporting for a few years now. Unfortunately, not a coddled newsroom, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. Listen, there are something. Props to the people who come from traditional newsrooms that do work with us. I just know that you're not one of them, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's. I just like making my life hard, I guess.
We know what that's like. Yes.
Yeah, we do, man.
Yeah.
But I think it was like last. It would have been like last summer. I saw that, these reports are supposed to be published every October, give or take, and so I filed a records request for some of them, and then that led to like the whole thing. I think it was like 6 months it took for them to actually get them up.
So to be clear, so this is basically the state, and this is similar to just so many things, right? Like a report has to be filed, tens of millions of dollars, sometimes a year are spent. There's like this base level accountability. Sometimes it'll be like one sheet, which to anyone who participates in the Massachusetts bureaucracy, whether it's through healthcare or has ever had to do anything, you're filling out forms for like the rest of your life. But when it's the government that has to fulfill its, thing for in this case, right? What were we getting? What was like being issued every year? By the way, who is it? Who is the giving out this money?
Yeah, so the money, it comes from a number of different class action suits filed by the state attorney general's office against various companies for their role in the opioid epidemic, such as Johnson & Johnson, CVS, Purdue Pharma. Although I don't know if the Purdue one is like 100% finalized yet, because that was just
Well, the original Purdue, though. I mean, Purdue is one of the right. I mean, one of the
right. Yeah,
original.
yeah. And then that one got overturned, and then there
Right. Which would, that's another, so anyone who's followed, this has been a real saga, and it's like enough at the national level, but now you're tracking it at the state level. So what was the first, did you find that the state, when you asked for more details on the spending, that they were like, okay, here it is? I mean, how did it go? What was, and you had to put up a fight. That's a big part of this story, right?
Yeah. So I guess to sort of kind of ground it, there's two basic sort of reports that get released. One is from the state, from the Executive Office of Health and Human Services,
Right.
which they get 60% of all the remediation funds from those lawsuits. And then 40% goes to participating municipalities, which is most of them. I think it's like 300 and something.
Well, that's a lot. So it's more than 300 out of 352 towns. So it's basically impacted everywhere.
Yeah, most, I would say.
And and just like, I know the formula is like complicated, but roughly speaking, how are they out? How do they decide? I know some towns have jockeyed for more money, but is this kind of like the Google algorithm that nobody really knows? Right? How transparent is that? Like,
that,
one town gets this much versus the other town.
without like looking it up right now, that was, I believe, part of that was like figured out in the national settlement. There is some sort of algorithm that does like
right.
the population of the city times how many deaths from overdoses and sort of like something like that, and it figures out like what share of money should go to.
And if you don't mind me, I just want to chime in here because this is like one of my soapboxes, which is that I'm glad that there is some kind of equity being attempted here. But I always say, when people talk about mass and Cass in Boston, for example, this is where a large part of the problem. So is, and a lot of it is, we can't always trace we can't always take the temperature of the opioid epidemic around Massachusetts by where people die. People die often near where there are services, where there are unhoused people crashing, where skid rows are. So it's just a wildly complicated issue, and with each level always more. So let's talk about your first big piece with us. This is the kind of reporting that people have to understand takes like months. This is the big one. April we definitely started talking about it in 2024. We ended up focusing on some of the spending. You want to, talk about what that process was like, and how you landed on a lot of police funding and stuff like that.
Yeah, so that one, those are the municipal reports, which that there's I think 8 categories that is defined in the settlement agreement, basically, that all municipalities agree to when they opt into this, which it's like you can only spend it on certain categories that are related to basically remediating or helping people who are dealing with a substance use disorder sort of recover from that and get back on their feet.
It's pretty. I mean, there are 8 categories, but it's pretty loosely structured, right? I mean, if you have programs going on, even sort of creative ones, they can pretty much be fit, right? But some of the stuff you saw, there's just not that it was wrong, like there were, but a lot of administrative costs, obviously, but also just police spending, right? And we always see with these issues, departments getting funding.
There was one town that I believe they just put that money to defray the cost of their police expenses.
Right, which is not how it's supposed. And you found some language where it basically, it basically says where that's not supposed to be spent like that. And also one of the most egregious, of course, what was it? The city of Lawrence, did they use it to clean out a homeless encampment?
Oh yeah, they used it. Yeah, there's a few different homeless encampments, and this required a bulldozer or a backhoe for some reason. It's a little unclear.
Yeah, and did they break the backhoe? That's what they were paid for.
Right.
Sorry.
No, that's one of the craziest parts, man.
And as well as, is it in there? There's deep cleaning of the library after they had used it.
Let me just check.
Wait, what did they use the library for?
Well, they used it as a warming center shelter,
and then they tapped the fund to clean it.
Yeah, they had to bring in a specialist sort of cleaner apparently.
I'm looking for Lawrence.
I don't know.
I gotta say, even we're you gotta find humor where it exists in these just this awful kind of story. But I gotta say,
here it is. This is it. Right there.
This is the kind of thing where even if it's okay, understandable, it's not mitigating the scourge. It's not remediation, right? And there are certain things where, future reporting, and we'll get into your upcoming piece. Jason, I don't know if you can retrieve. I sent you the cover.
Yeah, I was just doing that actually. I think I got it.
And I also sent you the cover for our event.
I'll see if I can show it.
And props to anybody watching who is coming. I'm really glad to hear from some people today that they do, really a few people today in particular, that they're coming on Saturday. But anyway, back to this. So John,
good.
This came out in April, and I got to say, it's crazy. It feels like it came out so recent. This is the story that's kept on giving in the time since. We've done more research, other stories. What have you been really kind of looking at big picture? You're kind of on the data side, the quarterback of this story. What is interesting to you? And you haven't even seen this. This is the cover, so to speak, of your upcoming latest. That Massachusetts is finally spending more than ever. So props to you, first of all, because you're the first to get this information, as you were one of the first last time to been on top of it. It's not public yet in the way that it's not been released by the state. So can you just tell us, kind of similar to before, what is it that you've gotten your hands on that the story that we're dropping this week? What is it that you have that we're going to be sharing with readers?
So like I said, there's a report that the Executive Office of Health and Human Services is supposed to file. And per the agreement, which it's like a state law, right, or statute, they have to present a report that itemizes their spending for the past year to the both houses of the state legislature, and also make it public by October 1st of the year. That I haven't checked today. Maybe it's up there, but it didn't seem, all last month it hadn't happened. So I filed a records request asking for it, and they sent me what seemed like a final copy of it. The file name, it was FY25 report signed, and then it's actually signed by the secretary. But there was something like 13 million that was not actually itemized in the report.
I gotta say, we're the kind of reporters here. This is the kind of stuff where, if only tabloids of the world and the 5 o'clock news covered this kind of thing, they'd probably make a huge deal of it. We're really doing that accountability. I don't think somebody I don't think somebody is hiding the money in their desk drawer at the State House. I think that, the work that you're doing is really, showing, first of all, pushing, not that it's a month late, the report, right? And the past ones have been, but in general, this is not to always be giving the plug for independent journalism, but this is like such basic accountability. And I will say that the last time you did the first story, it depends on who writes the version of history. But as far as I saw it, they fought and fought and fought to not release the city by city data. And then they released it. And lo and behold, what was it? 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, there's a public dashboard where everyone can see it. Now, not that they hadn't thought to do it, but I don't know. Were they saving it for them to be the ones to present? It reminds me of I saw Ralph Nader speak once, and he said, he's phrased it much more eloquently than I could, but like how much it pained him to see the car companies that fought tooth and nail against any safety features advertise seatbelts every time he turned on the television. You know what I mean? So I just think like what that's a long way of saying that, a lot of this stuff you have is very, I think it's revealing. It shows a lot. It shows where the accountability is and isn't, where the spending has been and has not been. And people can read it however they want. So what are they going to see in the story that drops this week? You said there's some money not, but generally, where was the money spent? I think that's really more of the thing here, right? Like if we're not being tabloid reporters, I think the story is that money was spent. What do you say? So your first sentence is what? 4 or more than has been spent in the first 4 years together, right? In the last
Yeah.
fiscal year.
Yeah. So they spent approximately $62 million and that's from this specific fund. That's not
Right.
really all funds that have gone towards.
No, there's definitely a ton of other money, a million other channels for opioid stuff, but this is the settlement funds, the 60%, right, that the state has spent.
Correct. Yeah. And so I did reach out to the Office of Health and Human Services, and a spokesperson told me that of that 13 million, 8 million went towards a student loan repayment program that they have for people pursuing careers in healthcare that are related to.
That's interesting. That's cool.
Yeah.
And then the remainder, something like 5 million approximately, was administrative costs, which I didn't get any additional details about.
But in your first report, the administrative costs could be kind of all over the place, right?
Yeah. So it's like in the report that they sent me, it says administrative costs were 1.3 million, and seems about what it's been yearly from their office.
Well, pardon me, in terms of what they spend on, I mean, they spend on a variety of things under the heading administrative.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. I couldn't even try to guess.
No, I mean, that's the thing. It's this huge catch-all. And of course, any element, any corner of government that you've ever covered, these exist. Whether it's a blanket contract where it's now a pain in the butt to see all the contracts underneath it, and I think this might be the definition of a shell game, frankly. But again, we're not drawing all the conclusions. We're really showing what's going on, and this is millions of dollars, like millions and millions of dollars. How about, can you just, and then some of it goes through a partnership with a nonprofit called Rise Massachusetts, RIZE. They are a major nonprofit. So they are, am I right? They're what? They are contracted to distribute a certain amount of the money and to do some programming themselves?
Yeah, that's about right. There's a few grants that they administer either to nonprofits or municipalities directly. That some of the money from last year went towards that. They also provide certain like training and technical assistance to municipalities, basically on like how to spend the money, or like what they can and can't do.
Right.
Maybe like guide them towards like best practices, sort of thing. which does seem, not useless, at least.
No, of course. I mean, and especially, I mean, we saw, listen, again, it's not all, some of the reporting that we saw on the news reporting from the last stuff was like, none of this money was spent. And then they like disappeared, never to be seen with any coverage again. And it's like, I get it. And we had certainly an element of that. About 8% of the municipal money only had been spent in the first 3 years. And it's like, yeah, people are dying here. Totally understandable. And then we started looking, and it's as understandable as it is. It's also, it's just what it is. They're forming boards. It's like local bureaucracies. That's how it is. Also, though, and I didn't want to spring this on you, it's something we spoke about briefly. I think it's mentioned in your first piece. There's also like DC think tanks telling these cities and towns, sit on the money a little bit, like just that kind of heartless shit. And hopefully we're going to get into that with the reporting we're doing here. But just what sense have you gotten as to why money has been spent or not spent? What's just kind of your general take on that? Like, you're allowed to have an opinion here on our talk show. Mr.
Yes.
Straightforward reporter, data reporter. Go ahead. What do you think? What's your impression?
About why?
What about trends? About how money has been spent or not spent.
Yeah. So, I mean, I am not like a public health expert or anything. I can't really, I trust that the people doing this are, at least trying to do the best with what they can. What we've seen is what this year is 22 million approximately went to various programs at hospitals as well as outreach programs, and that seems like when you see all there being like a homeless crisis too, and people are living on the streets and stuff like that, it seems like it's probably a good way to go about it. As for, I haven't seen any of the municipal things from this year, so I don't know how they've been conducting their work.
No, it's one of these things where the whole, I always feel that this makes me feel like I'm not such a partisan hack, because this really is one of those things where, like, not that I ever am like over here hanging out with the libertarians or whatever, but the amount of money that is already spent, before the settlement funds, one of the things that came out in our reporting about some of the, opioid programs and substance use disorder and treatment programs, it cost in the prison, Massachusetts Department of Correction, more than $500,000 a year, more than to treat some of these people. And then we go and talk to people, and they say there's like no therapy. It's like just pills. So like pills and a prison wall is $500,000 a year. So you're telling me everyone could have a job, an apartment downtown, a Porsche, and it just doesn't. So it's like, I understand the outrage of, typically what we used to call fiscal conservatives and whatever. And on the other hand, I believe that these programs are often needed. So, the abuse is there or whatever it is. But, that now what we are seeing, and by the way, would you just comment as a reporter about, and this, I wish we had John Gerhardson on too, because he's been trying to untangle too. But certainly a big part of your job here has been to.
Hey, what?
I said John. I'm sorry. I meant Jacob. I meant Jacob. Sorry.
Jacob.
I was reading John's.
Right. No. I just want to make sure.
Tell us what it's like to untangle this. I know you really kind of pull your hair out of your head doing this. The different streams of money. Like, what is the settlement funding? What is not? I mean, I think a normal person would say this should be the most obvious, transparent, on a simple dashboard, every dollar traced, accountable, and that of course would make the money. It would make it easier, because compliance is costly too. But the more streamlined it is, the less it would cost the taxpayer or this fund, whatever. So,
I mean, also it's a lot.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a lot statewide, right? But it just strikes me that municipality to municipality, it's not an inconsiderable amount of money, but it's like tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands for many communities. So you'd think they'd want to spend it quickly, carefully, and properly, right? Like on helping ameliorate the crisis. that, the Sacklers and companies like their company Purdue caused, over 300,000 deaths and so on and so forth nationwide. But I don't get that sense so far from your reporting, certainly.
I'm sorry. I just want to say a lot of John's reporting on a lot of the numbers. A lot of the data goes beyond that. And what we saw is understandable. Like you're in like some bedroom community. Where the hell is the opioid problem? You knock on everybody's door, ask if they want a flyer. But John,
doing things like buying cop cars, or whatever, rather than
that's obviously should not be happening.
Right.
Yeah, I think you have a good point, Jason, about some municipalities like have only received, maybe like it's in like tens of thousands of dollars.
Right.
And so, I mean, I can understand an argument where, you maybe want to save that up. There's not necessarily like a ton you can do with it.
Yeah.
But I think, part of, I think what was interesting to me about this is compared to other revenue streams for state or local government, there's talk of transparency about it, but there's actually not really much oversight into how it's spent. In a lot of cities, it's basically just like either like the mayor's office or the health department can just decide what they're going to spend it on, and then that's it. They don't need any form of approval. The state funds don't need to go through any sort of legislative approval either. And maybe that does help them sort of run sort of more lean, or they can act quicker. But I don't know that we've necessarily seen that.
No, we have not seen it, and I think that's a great point. Is that like they really do have the discretion? People are maybe afraid to make the wrong move. It's obviously a sensitive subject. Also, people don't want to screw it up, and nobody. I get it. It's also hilarious when you consider how there's no accountability really for any municipal police force to buy whatever freaking weapons of mass destruction they want, of surveillance tools, cameras set up, unless it's Brookline or Cambridge where there's some oversight, and even there, always pushing the limit. So when we think about the acquisition, now on the other hand, this is interesting money. Now I think if we listen, I don't want to just I bet if we had a couple different experts, they'd tell us that it can work differently through the line items on different municipal budgets, because some will go through this, some will go through that, and I say it because some of this the reporting has reminded me of reporting on campaign financing, where it's like this gray area. It's like, hey, okay, the state representative spent 30 nights in a hotel on his campaign fund last year. What do you have to say about that? And they're like, well, that's his campaign fund, and if the OCPF, the Office of Campaign Political Finance, wants to slap him on the wrist and whatever, with this, I just feel like we're pests for asking how millions and tens of millions of consequential dollars are spent. Do you feel that way? Not that you don't seem like the kind of guy who cares, and that's why I like working with you. But how have you felt? Are you a total pain in the ass to these people?
It's been, I mean, you've looked at this report for this year and like the prior years. It doesn't really break down like what the money's actually spent on. Actually, I talked with someone at KFF about it too, and they had the same criticism of the report.
Are you adding that into the piece, or?
Sorry.
Are you adding a comment from someone, or?
Oh no, this was like last year, just sort of.
Oh, okay, about the in general, okay.
And I was like, yeah, I don't know either why it's not, broken down further. They presumably have this data to create the report in the first place, and some of it might be, I don't know how much of it might be like protecting like health, like HIPAA protected information. But I would think, it's like $21 million here, and it's what, 1, 2, 3, 5 bullet points, half a page. So that can be frustrating. I have asked them for, more detailed records, but they haven't gotten back to me yet. And then the municipalities, it's the same. You kind of gotta just sort of guess and then fire off a few records requests to wherever and see what they have. Basically.
Yeah, and I gotta say, this is the plug part, self plug for us in our reporting. I gotta say that a lot of the reluctant transparency, if we even want to call it that, or even discussion about this funds has been pushed by your reporting, your inquiries. We don't always know what happens behind the wall in the black box in the decision making process, but you have fought, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, decisions, public information decisions for this story up to the Secretary of the Commonwealth. Is that correct?
Like an appeal of.
You've appealed.
Yeah, I mean, I've appealed. It's very tricky to get records from the Department of Public Health for whatever reason. I have at least like 2 out on appeal right now, just from them not responding, basically.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know.
Are they notorious? Muckrock tracks agencies. Are you familiar with their? That's put you on the spot. With their reputation on that.
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, we should check that out. But no, that's of course not something you want to hear. Is that of all agencies? That's not a great one. And we all know, the Department of Correction, not very transparent, but the Department of Public Health. This is news, and so you. But you've ultimately gotten, and again, we're going to be, we were one of the first news, if not the first organization to get this new information, which will be coming out this week, and the story that we were plugging tonight.
Yeah.
So really great work on that. I can't say enough. We'll have it out for you all tomorrow, John. I'll get you some final notes by the morning and give it some reads, and then we could give it to the world.
Yeah, I'm excited. Cool.
And then keep building on it. Any idea? I know we've spoken about a couple angles. This is just an open newsroom that we're doing here format. Anything, kind of next angles, things you're looking into, documents that, warrant further investigation on this front?
Yeah. Remember, was it Dan Rather?
I remember Dan Rather.
Yeah, I remember him also.
Wait, didn't he shoot up heroin like on live?
Wait, oh, what?
Wow. That must have been quite a night. I never saw that one.
That should go viral. That's one of those things you could get to, a million. Bring that out of the old, out of the archives.
I'm going to guess it was Dan Rather that did that, but
who am I thinking of then? I don't know. My
an investigative reporter, it sounds like, because Dan Rather was on air telling.
No, but more seriously, I'm excited to be able to look at this year's municipal reports, which are using a new database format. Very exciting.
Oh, cool.
It's going to be better or worse. They used Salesforce last year. So
interesting.
The amount of money the state spends on software. That's why, that's the other thing. Like, not to be a total crank, it's getting late, but that's the other thing. Like, all of our reporting, one thing just always like points to the other. It's like, the lack of accountability, transparency, and organization on one hand, and on the other hand, hundreds of software contracts a year worth tens of millions of dollars, tons of local tech bros getting rich with their crappy software and parents' connections, and it's just and that would be almost okay if we could just push a button and get data. I cover the Cannabis Control Commission also for Talking Joints memo, and they've now admitted what I've known for years, is that they can't even query their own systems. And it's funny because they used to not really admit it, and now that they are getting choked on the budget, even though cannabis brings in tons of money, not like they get all that money, so they need more money. And now they're very open about how bad their systems are because they need millions of dollars to fix them. But it's just, it's just really ridiculous. So on the other hand, if it was that easy, I guess you wouldn't have a gig doing this for us. And I will say,
big bucks. Yeah.
I'll ask you, in our open newsroom format, what is the wait time on this municipal spending? Is that an October 1st thing too? Are we waiting on that? Do you have an information request for that? What's the deal?
So I know that at least one of these reports was filed in like the middle of September. Unlike the state one, which has like, technically October 1st is the deadline for it. It's not specifically stated. Last year, when did it? Yeah, it was like January or something, wasn't it?
When we
Um,
finally got everything.
yeah.
Yeah, and of course it's different because that in that case, rather than the state just generating a report, Rise or whoever the municipal stuff goes to at the state, the first the municipalities have to do their reports, be compliant, send those in, and then those have to get, it's understandable. Or hopefully, if the software worked, that would be one click of a button. Now it's a report. There's everything together. Nothing in government works like that, as we've all learned over the years. I really do. I do predict that if 8% had been spent over the first several years, my guess is for this past fiscal year, in some part due to pressure that we put on and others put on, I think we'll probably be up to like 25%. But from, also talking to municipalities, we have a program. We're not doing anything right now, but with a filmmaker named Johnny Hickey, who does an opioid related program. So with him, we've spoken to some municipalities on the other side, like as a potential contractor, vendor. And, I hate to admit it, we've learned a little bit for the reporting side through it. I don't hate to admit it, but, I'm a reporter first. If I have ears if I'm in a place. And what we've seen is that a lot of these cities and towns, there's like, nothing nefarious going on. They're just take forever. They set up these boards, so it'll have like stakeholders, a local organization that does recovery services, the chief of police, the person who's the head of recovery services at the city or town, maybe the head of fire. And it took a year and a half to form that committee. Now that committee meets quarterly. Things take a long time. Understandably, everyone's busy, underpaid, overworked. But that's really what it is. So I think that you'll see probably more like 25%. I've also seen that a lot of the municipalities have finally figured out how to, and I don't mean like this is a bad thing. I get it. And I'm not the one dealing with this crisis every day on the ground. But what I've seen is finally they have figured out how to get their person who is either part-time or on another line item funded by this funding over the past couple of years. And so that's what we'll see, means what? More administrative cost is how that will probably show up in the amalgam report, right? The combined report that we get. Do you have any predictions? What do you think we'll see on the municipal side?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we saw a big jump in spending on the state side this year. I think that's up to, I don't want to say well, it's 62. I think it's like what? So it's 120 something, 123 million total out of 200. That's like 60%, right?
Oh, like a year.
I mean, like over the course of the 5 years.
Oh, okay.
So, but like half of that was just this past year. So, we might see, the same thing from the municipalities. But I don't want to try to guess.
No, look, there's the reporter right there. Appreciate it. Well, it's kind of funny. It's always the people who actually know things who don't want to make any, who don't want to do any guesswork. We should have had some schmuck on. We should have, poached somebody from the Herald who knows nothing about the topic to come on and screech.
And spew.
Yeah. I mean, that's really, and we would have gotten a ton of clicks. Anyway, no, this is great, man. So I really appreciate your reporting and spearheading this.
Yeah.
People really go back, and I do hope that, this is the kind of interview that that long tail, people will find this when they find John's reporting. If it's the other way around, go back, read that first piece from April 2025 about opioid spending on BINJ.News. It really is. We've already seen other outlets point to it. Also, one thing I also want to bring up, and maybe Jason wants to ask a question. You work with the Shoestring, our friends in Western Mass, who've also run, I think they ran your first piece. Certainly we got to get them to run this coming one. Tell us about journal, media in Western Mass and why the Shoestring's so important, and what politicians are getting away with out there, because nobody, barely anyone's paying attention.
Oh yeah, yeah. The shoestring is great. So is Binge. Everybody should donate to
Thank
both of
you.
them.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes.
Things like that. I just did a piece for them about there's a private equity firm that was buying up. They had about like 20% of the funeral homes in Hampden County.
Oh yeah.
They've also been doing not myself. Been doing pretty good election coverage there, which that's today, right?
That's today. Yeah, both of us just voted. Yeah.
Yeah. Woo.
Yep.
Yeah, polls are closing now. Is there a race in particular that everyone's eyeing out there?
There's a bid for Northampton mayor that was pretty big, I believe. A lot of
An interesting city, and a city that is has everything, has a lot of microcosms and issues. It comes up a lot. It's this progressive town with a war on the homeless and all sorts of interesting situations there over the years. And I went to a shoestring event there once. It's definitely an interesting place to report on.
I'll be sure to every couple of weeks I do this little Indie Mass column where I review what other independent outlets have been reporting on around the state, and so I always run something from the shoestring. So I'm going to have to see what I should be grabbing.
Yeah,
this
give
week,
give us a quick second on that. Tell us about the funeral. What are the implications? Like, what happens with funeral home consolidation? We always look at like the sexy industries or the industries that that people pay attention to. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, it's like probably God knows. Is every vending machine owned by the same guy with a big pinky ring? I don't know. Tell us about funeral home.
yeah. So, I mean, like the short version is that many like funeral home owners are sort of getting older, and it's been sort of like a family business, but it's not really the case anymore. So if you want to retire, then what do you do? You have to sell, and so this has been happening everywhere in the country for past couple decades, but it seems like there's not a new wave of it happening, at least in this area, between like 2022 and present. And
I think you're allowed to just bury some of your family members in your backyard if you're out there and you're weary of this industry. I believe, I'm not positive. Luke, you don't want to look this up. I'm no lawyer.
I think like a lot of paperwork.
It's a lot of fuck it.
Yeah, and a lot of burlap as well. But
this reminds me of pharmacies. Same deal, right? Bought out the mom and CVS. This is very easy to take over. You just basically retired every pharmacist in America to Florida and North Carolina, right? With that's.
I think the investment companies are looking for, financial services companies, financial companies, banks, whatever, are looking for safe places to park money. And what could be safer than a funeral home? People got to use it pretty much. Most people are not going to wrap their beloved in burlap sacks and toss them off a cliff or whatever. So
people are going to think of the New Yorker cartoon writing itself already though. Like the, 8 ways corners are cut in the, investment bank owned funeral industry, the toes sticking out of the casket, the toe tags are smaller. I don't know what it is.
I mean, they showed everything you need to see in The Big Lebowski, in the scene, where one of the main characters drops of a heart attack, and his friends, he has no money. His friends have to try to bury him, and they're in this fancy funeral home, and then they don't want to fit. It's every single thing is very expensive, very overpriced.
A la carte.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to make a prediction right here. I'm going to make a prediction on this show right now. Okay. That we can all ready. So I don't know if any of you have heard any podcasts or seen any of the true crime, but it's in Brooklyn. There was one big one where these guys were harvesting body parts.
Yeah.
Huge, big money, no regulation at all. You can just sell arms and stuff. I mean, it's absolutely insane. Totally not believable, even for 3 people like us who look at unbelievable things all day. Really unregulated, prediction right now, huge. body part selling scam. I mean, you think that these kind of investment minded operators are not going to milk that cow every way they can, selling the toes to toe suckers on the black market, whatever they take
Yeah.
to get every dollar? There's no chance. There's no track record of capitalism not doing that. So my prediction right here is that these funeral home takeovers by these large companies will end in scandal that will be paid minor fines, and it'll happen 3 times before something crazy. But that's my prediction. Very disgusting body harvesting. That's the big word.
That is gross. Yeah, because
There it is. There it is. For a positive note.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there has been some scandals with other companies, notably Service Corporation International. There's something where they accidentally cremated an infant in Massachusetts. It was 10 or 15 years ago, something like that. How that happens, I don't know.
What'd they do?
Yeah, what'd they do?
It was they accidentally cremated like a baby that was
who was dead.
Like a live baby? Or
no, sorry, it was the baby.
Okay, good. I was getting super disturbed.
All right, well, I mean, it's bad no matter what.
It's kind of fucked up no matter what, but no.
Yeah, totally. Well, that must have been very
you want to
distressing
check
for the
that
family.
out. And, this is just it's impossible to not see any such problems arising. So let's see how bad that gets. But I will definitely maybe we'll definitely, and that's a look at there. Are they bought any in other parts of the state in your research? Not to press you. Is this something that maybe there's a Boston edition or a Worcester edition?
This particular company, there's like one in Norfolk County, but it seemed like most of them were in Western Mass and Hampton County specifically. That might have to do with real estate costs. I'm not entirely sure.
Interesting. Well, my family was in the casket business many years ago in Brooklyn, and the casket factory that my family owned, the Libraro Casket Factory, Ocean Casket, is now a hipster bar called the Pine Box. And yeah, really, before my grandmother died, we took her there, and they took her. There was this girl. It's a rock bar too. It's called the Pine Box Rock Bar, and there's this like tattooed like manager, and she like took my grandma on a tour of the place by her arm. It was like the proudest my grandmother's ever been. She's like showing them where the dead bodies used to be, and all the rock kids were like enthralled. It was the coolest thing. But there's all the, of course, when you're in that industry, it's like how's business? It's dead. It's all the same kind of. But anyway, thanks, John. That's
thanks for coming on the show.
I got to dig into that one too. No pun intended.
Cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess we'll wrap it up. Thanks, Jonathan Gerhardson, for coming on the show. Nice. And we'll be back next week, same time, same quote unquote channel, 8 p.m. East Coast time, binge live next week.
John,
next Tuesday.
John, I'll get you the edits overnight. Open news, right? And we can
to talk after the show too for a minute, Chris.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
But bye, folks. We're all going to freeze now while I hit end stream. That's kind of the thing.